This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, and you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Why, yes, let us pick up these mics and get on with this thing on this episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast, where we board the arc of Misdirected to go on a journey of how the beginning, middle, and end of a story creates the arc we will now embark on. My name is Chris.
And I'm Phil.
And I'm Old Man Logan.
That is who we are. And to not belay the point too much, Phil, what's going on?
Yes. New Year's stuff, right?
Yeah, that happened.
We had New Year's stuff go on.
It's like 2017 and stuff.
It's like 2017. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome to 2017.
That's right. Out of the dumpster fire and into the lava is what we coined it at my party.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
May your 2017 be as good or better than your 2016. Hopefully better.
Hopefully better. Yeah, I did New Year's stuff. And I learned that I make a pretty mean Moscow Mule.
Very nice.
Which I was pretty happy with because I kept drinking them. I did some reading over the weekend.
Anything interesting?
Yeah, I'm reading a book called Sex and Shakespeare that was recommended in our private Slack channel that we have with our patrons. And I got myself a print copy of the Indie Hack.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like really little, but I mean, it was cool.
It's still very cool.
It's full color.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I got a chance this weekend to play Hearts Blazing.
Hearts Blazing is a really good game.
Hearts Blazing is a really good game.
Unfortunately, Bob had to bail out on us for some reasons.
And that's why we played, because we were going to play Fall of Magic.
We were.
And I just wanted to show you the game. So I was like, I'm going to bring Hearts Blazing over to show you. And then when Bob had to bail, it was like, well, we can't play Fall of Magic. Let's play Hearts Blazing.
Yes, let's play Hearts Blazing.
And we did. We had a really good time playing it. And I also, for a few minutes before we went and got tacos, I taught Bob how to play Red 7.
Very fun game.
Yeah, that's right.
I still haven't gotten a chance to play.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait to teach you this game. You're going to love it. It's right up your alley.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff there. And then I did something which we'll talk about later in the show, but I spent yesterday modding some bags.
Ah, yes. For Phil's carry segment, we'll talk all about that.
Yeah. So I'll leave that there. How about you?
Okay, so New Year's Eve, I went to Tangent Twin Katie's house.
Down the road from my place.
Yep, which was a drunken party of the likes that I've seen many times at my house, but not usually in other places. By the end of the night, at 3 a.m, there were people vomiting, and it was a bad scene.
Did you sleep in the tub there?
Nope, because I didn't get drunk.
Oh, look at you.
And then again, my lovely wife, Jen, she got blitzed out of her mind at some point. There was like round 12 of shots.
I saw some texts from you. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
The blitz. The best part was the next day we went to Nikki's house for brunch, for New Year's brunch.
Yeah.
And when we woke up, Jim was like, I was like, are you okay? Because she was out of her mind, hammered, like slurring her words, doesn't remember anything after like 2 a.m. And I'm like, are you okay? Are you good to go? She woke up. She's like, I'm fine. Let's go. She hops in the shower. She gets dressed. We get in the car. About halfway there, she's like, I don't feel so good.
Yeah.
She was still drunk when she woke up.
Uh-huh.
And then the hangover hit.
I've had 1 or 2 of those myself. Yeah, I wound up taking Dante to go see Sing.
Nice.
Because Mrs. Vecchione wasn't ready to attend a movie.
Was she a little bit hammered too?
I didn't think she really was.
Until the next morning?
But I came downstairs because I was the last one to come downstairs in the morning, and I took one look, and I was like, you should just go back upstairs, and I'll finish cleaning from the party.
Well, Florence likes to drink martinis that are pretty much all vodka.
Straight vodka and olives.
Yeah.
Actually, she puts enough. She puts vermouth in the glass and swirls it,
yeah.
and then throws the vermouth out. Yeah.
That's a thing that happens.
Yeah. Anyway, she was under the weather.
Under the weather. Yeah. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah. You know, my grandmother used to have a great term for it. I wish I could remember what it was. My grandmother had a great term for when my grandfather drank too much, which was often.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to remember before the end of the episode. It's quite funny. Anyway,
I was so sober. Like I had like 2 drinks all night.
I had like 4 or 5. We cracked open the Celtic honey.
Nice.
That's Celtic honey is a drink that you could accidentally like F yourself up really bad.
I could see that.
It's too smooth. Like, it shouldn't be that smooth, and it is. But I basically just I was knocking mules back.
So at Nikki's house on New Year's Day, eventually I had to take Jen home, but then I came back because I'm like, here, hon. I sat with her for a little while and I got her all set up, and she was like, I'm like, all right, I think you're okay.
done.
Here's some water. Here's the remote for the TV.
Here's a bucket.
If you need me, just call me. And then I went back and we played 5 Tribes, and we played the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And then you came over and we went for tacos, and then we played Hearts Blazing, which is a great game. I enjoyed that game quite a bit.
I really did. In the after show, we could talk more about Hearts
Yeah.
Blazing, but I was really fond of it.
Yeah, a few other things that I've been doing recently. That I binged the hell out of Hellboy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I read 3 volumes of Hellboy, or 4 volumes of Hellboy, like in like one day.
Nice.
That Hellboy is really good for those who don't know. I mean, if you've only ever seen the movie, which I enjoy the movie too, the books are way better. The comics, the Mike Mignola comics are so good. Also been watching 2 things on Netflix. The OA, which is taking the Netflix model and using it as an effective storytelling tool, because Netflix understands that it'll just go from episode to episode.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first time I think I've ever really can truly say that somebody designed a show that is chapter to chapter.
Gotcha.
It feels like a bunch of chapters of a book.
Nice.
And then I'm watching, because it's fun, and I believe Tony Cinta, the Rainmaker, is also watching this with his son, The Troll Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
It is a animated show on Netflix, a Netflix original, and it's written by Guillermo. I can't ever say his name.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
That's one of the reasons we
I'm
have
very
Bob
difficult
here.
with that one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Guillermo. I can't even say it. I'm tongue-tied, if anybody didn't know. Like, my tongue is actually, there's a piece of skin that's underneath your tongue. Mine is actually longer and holds my tongue down more than other people, so I can actually only stick my tongue out very, very little bit.
I
Important safety tip.
feel like now I know you better.
Well, technically, I should have a lisp of some sort, but I don't. Like, my
Interesting.
grandfather was tongue-tied, and he couldn't. He talked like this all the time. Like, this is about the way he could talk. But I don't. I for some reason, I got lucky, and I actually can enunciate. Yeah, so that's what's going on with me. Bob, what's going on with you?
Oh, New Year's festivities.
Yeah, Bob was at my place.
Yep.
Very cool.
And brought Amanda?
I got a little bit of a buzz to start the night, and then stayed sober so
Yep.
that Amanda could have some drinks, and took her home early because she had a rough day, and
Plus, we fed her a few drinks quickly.
plus a few. So hung out there for a while, rang in the New Year, and then went home and crashed to get ready for brunch on Sunday.
Nice.
Getting up Sunday morning was not easy. It did. I'm like, oh, I don't want to. And I wasn't drunk or hungover or anything. I just did not want to get up, but I did. Brunch was, of course, spectacular because Nikki does not fool around when she invites people over for food.
There was like 4 different kinds of bacon.
Yeah.
4 kinds of bacon. There are 4 bacons.
There are 4 bacons.
There was like a lamb bacon. There was maple bacon. I think she still had some of the Christmas ale bacon.
Yeah, there was some.
There was
it
just
was
bacon
ridiculous.
everywhere.
She made me a care package.
She did.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was like 2 different kinds
Good
of roast
stuff.
beef.
Yep.
It was lovely.
Yes.
If you ever get a chance to hang out with Nikki, she will try to kill you with her Sicilian ways.
Yes.
I mean, you have to understand she's Sicilian, so when she when she wants to feed you, she'll kill you.
It'll be the
with
best.
food.
It'll be the best death ever.
Yeah. I mean, I had some experience in this because I'm half Italian, so this is how my relatives operate. So
Yeah.
I was not thrown off.
Yep.
I mean, the story was we were all there. We got tacos from Deep South. Came back to Nikki's place, and then Nikki's like, "Oh, I made you a plate of food," and brought it out and put it next to me while I had like tacos and nachos, and I'm like, "Oh, what the hell?" Like,
This should still be in the fridge.
I mean, I was eating
Until I
some
leave.
I was eating some of the
Yeah.
bacon.
Yeah,
She was
I
very
mean,
nice. She packaged it up for it and sent me home with it.
But yeah, it
was pretty awesome.
That's the way of things at Nikki's house for get-togethers.
Uh-huh.
Here's the food. Boom.
Another
all
quick,
the food.
another quick tip about Nikki, just because I feel like throwing it out there. She will tell you that she doesn't need help or doesn't want you to help or doesn't want you to do anything. Just ignore her and help her.
Yes. Well, because she'll just sit there and work
The
like
trick
herself
is
into
to
the
Yeah.
ground.
help without getting in the way.
That's true.
Because
Then
if
she'll
you
get-
get in the way, then
you'll get stomped
you will
on.
Get stomped on.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we had lots of good food. We played a bunch of games, got some more Circle of Six in, and some new people that are like fans of the game.
Nice.
So I think that game is gonna go far. So
Me too. It's a really good game.
yeah, I enjoy it.
All right.
I'm surprised they came up with it.
Moving on, let's
Yeah.
go. Announcements. The mega feed is going away. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. There will be no more mega feed as of February.
Please evacuate the mega feed. Please follow the lights on the floor
Yeah.
to the designated exits and evacuate the mega feed.
I am currently working out how to make it so that this is not going to be a problem. It is a little bit more tricky than I was expecting. Because there's a lot of things on the website that are like, hey, you should get this thing from the mega feed after you've listened to the show. Like the audio that is right on the like the audio player, the links under that go to the mega feed, and I'm trying to figure out how to get them to not go to the mega feed, and it's so far been rather tricky.
Please evacuate the mega feed.
Yes.
The mega feed is shutting down in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You now
Which,
have 3 weeks.
By the
to
way,
reach minimum
I
safety.
actually have to do because the mega feed is how I subscribe to it on my phone.
So to that, I can't remember who it was. I will actually going to be talking about this in the future, not of this show, but next week. Somebody gave me an OLM like hack file for
Okay.
if you want to subscribe to every single Misdirected Mark show.
You could just upload the file.
This particular file or this code to your podcatcher. Yeah.
Yeah, my podcatcher has a import.
So I will be posting that code into the Misdirected Mark G Plus community.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. So
Who was
thank
that?
you. I can't remember.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you,
I
somebody.
planned on putting it in the show next week, but I wanted to mention it now. So
Yeah.
it'll be in the show next week.
Wise.
Thank you, whoever did that. I just can't remember at the moment because I've seen about 57 different emails since then. Next thing and last thing before we to our featured segment, the @MisdirectedMark Twitter is shared between me and the Queen of, apparently, as Wayne wanted me to say, of Misdirected Mark Productions these days instead of just the Chat Room for Life.
There we go.
Senda and me both use the Misdirected Mark handle, the @Misdirected Mark handle. And actually, Phil could if he wanted to because he's part of that crew on the tweet deck. So you can also see Phil tweet using the @Misdirected Mark handle.
I will say this. I will probably avoid it because I make a mess of the Pandas Talking Games one. So I basically try not to even tweet on that one, and I still accidentally tweet because I lose track of which account I'm in when I'm tweeting.
Yep.
And Senda has had to scold me a number of times because she'll answer something that somebody posted, and then I won't see her answer, and I'll just answer it again as Pandas Talking Games. So I'm gonna probably just stick to DNA Phil. Like,
So-
I seem to be safer.
So you know what I did?
Yeah.
The Light 101 Twitter handle gets notifications whenever the Misdirected Mark handle posts.
Yeah.
So whenever Senda ever posts, I'll see it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I'll be like, I didn't write that. Oh, it must have been Senda.
That wasn't me.
I've also started trying to, if it's like an actual post, putting my initials at the bottom, CS.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
If I got room.
That's the thing. Yeah, that Senda and I didn't do either. Like, it's just this mysterious account that like repeats itself and like it does all sorts of crazy stuff. So I kind of like laying off. Of it.
I tried building in a couple of fail safes for myself that way.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm bad at it.
Yeah, that's the announcements. We did the what's going on. I suppose we should move on to the
What's
workshop.
going on?
Yeah.
We're
We
gonna
should have that as a no. We can't have that.
yeah, we're gonna stroll over there right now. Welcome to the workshop, where we try to build better games.
Wait, before you do the thing, I finally figured out. Remember, you've been asking me like what sound effects we're supposed to put in the board.
Yeah,
We need the Zeta tube from Young Justice.
I think it's copyrighted.
Damn it.
I mean, I know that Rich and them use that for the YJ files, but they're espoused to be a fan podcast, and they don't like try to generate any revenue off their stuff where we do.
I just want something that's like recognize Phil MM02. Like,
Well, then we make our own.
Wouldn't you be 03?
technically, because I guess Mark still
Yeah,
counts, right?
Mark is 02.
Right. So then I'm 03.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
MM03. Yeah.
and Bob, you're MM04.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would just be badass.
That
Anyway.
would be pretty
All right,
awesome. Actually,
Sorry. We're in the workshop.
we are in the
So
workshop.
we're in the
in fact.
workshop, right?
And we're talking about arcs because
So we're
at
in
one
the
point in time, many episodes ago, in fact, 12 of them ago at this point,
229.
we talked about short versus long campaigns, and we brought up the topic of arcs. And Avi and a couple other people asked us to expound upon arcs, and we decided to do a whole episode on it.
Yes. So for Avi, who's in the chat room, your questions are at the end of this segment.
Yes, they are.
We did put some stuff in the beginning of the segment, though, in between now and your stuff.
Yep.
So hang on in there.
So let's talk about terminology first.
Uh-huh.
So why don't you tell me about the terminology
Yeah,
that
let's
we came up
let's
with last time?
Yeah, let's do a little review from episode 229. So here's a couple terms that we'll just use for tonight. Session. So session is the time that we sit down at the table and we play a game.
Yes.
Okay, so Sunday night I have a game. I'm playing Action Movie World. That's a session.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how much or little material I get covered, but the act of sitting down is a session.
It actually has nothing to do with arcs in any way, shape, or form.
Correct, but session sometimes gets put in here.
That's true.
Okay. Story. Story is an adventure, a thing that happens when we have a session. It has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yep.
And it can be done in one session. That's a one shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it goes over multiple sessions.
Yes.
Okay. And that's a story.
That is a story.
Okay. And then we have an arc, which is like one bigger, which is an arc is a set of related stories.
Yep.
That when put together tell their own larger story. And they also have a beginning, middle, end story structure.
Yep. And the important thing about arcs is that there is connectivity between the stories.
Yes. So we're not talking about episodic, where an arc is not 10 unrelated episodes in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that. An arc is a series of stories, and then there's something in each story that kind of connects to each story and kind of connects to a greater whole.
In fact, you could probably use the term a serialized set of stories.
Yeah. Good term.
Yep.
All right. And then we move up to campaign, which is like the next one higher.
Yep.
Campaign is one or more arcs that are played together.
Mm-hmm.
Those arcs are interconnected.
Yep.
And in doing so, in terms of overall what's happening in the game, we increase both the complexity and the scope.
Yes. Yes. We have to, because complexity means an increase in complexity would be an increase of the moving parts of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a larger campaign where you have multiple arcs and they are all interconnected together, by their very definition, there's more material to connect, so there's more moving parts.
Yeah.
That's why that is what it is. And a short campaign is one arc, and a long campaign is one arc or more.
Yeah, that was what we came up with in 229.
Yep, and that is what we're going to stick with.
I like it. I mean, otherwise, it's too weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's too weird to argue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so we're talking about, I'm going to put the disclaimer in right now, okay?
Uh-huh.
We're talking about story structure,
Yeah.
and we're talking about role-playing game story structure.
Yep.
When I went to school to learn about writing and how to put together stories, I learned a base set, which is like that thing that you learn in third grade or whatever. And
My 7th grade English thing
seventh grade English.
that drives you crazy every time
you have rising action, climax, and
denouement.
Like, you also have the tri-fail cycle, all those things, right? Like,
Right.
Those are the base ideas of how to make these things. Eventually, once you learn this base set, you can build off of it and modify it as you will.
Right. And I think here's the important thing. The base set totally works. Like,
Yeah.
you can see examples of it, and we'll talk about some examples as we get into this.
Mm-hmm.
You will see examples of it everywhere.
Yeah.
And then when you deviate from it, it's cool.
Yeah.
If done properly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a fucking train wreck.
So we are using these definitions. These are the building blocks that you use to build off of and modify.
Yes.
This is your toolkit.
Yeah. And do not be
Beholden.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
To what we're saying, because again, we're putting up some guidelines,
Yep.
but
Start here and then expand upon that.
yes.
Because you will notice other story structures that don't fall into this as you consume different media.
And if time permits, we'll even talk about a couple of ones that don't.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the structure of an arc.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Yeah. So an arc, like we said before in the definition, typically follows the 3-act format.
Mm-hmm.
So an arc's going to have a beginning, like
Yep.
an act 1, a setup.
Yep.
Act 2, we're going to have some conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that conflict typically incrementally moves us towards the ultimate conflict, the climax.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to have Act 3, our resolution. So the climax, and then the aftermath of all of
Often
that.
those two things are very, very closely related in time.
Yeah, you wind up, I mean,
One happens and then the other one happens.
yeah, they happen very
Or
quickly.
they happen at the same time because the resolution of the conflict is the resolution.
I'm all about, I'm not falling for it today. I
Not
was gonna
falling for today?
I was going to say something about simultaneous climax or something,
And you just did.
but see how I said I wasn't going to say it, and then I just went ahead and
totally
did it
not gonna
anyway?
go there.
I'm totally not going to derail this with
you know what?
inappropriate talk.
You know what? At least that time the context was there. Like it was a double entendre joke at
the right moment,
appropriate moment.
I mean, that's the thing about simultaneous climaxes is to do it at the right moment.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like we said before, these are not the only kind of arcs that exist, but that is an arc that is typical and that people can recognize. So let's talk about the focus of arcs. Like how do we focus our arcs? How do we get our point of view of arcs going on?
Yep. Well, all right. So there's two different arcs that we can get into. The first one is the arc that is for the entire gaming group.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's the meta arc. Mm-hmm. And a good example of that is the Fall of the Empire. When we look at the original Star Wars trilogy, 4, 5, 6.
Sounds great. Yes.
Okay. So like that's an adventure that everybody in the campaign, if the major characters are the characters of the campaign, that's an adventure everybody got to go on.
That is the characters as a group or an organization do a thing.
Yeah, and as we look across those three movies, there's lots of stories that happened, and different characters were in different stories.
Yep.
And at times they were all together, and at times they weren't.
Correct.
But they all participated in that basic arc.
Yes.
I mean, this is Frodo taking the ring to the mountain kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Giant eagles.
So the other one is
They
that
got no giant eagles.
the other one is that an arc can be for an individual character, which we call a character arc. So these are, like we said, those are the stories that happen in between. Those are the stories that these characters are off doing on their own, or they're focused on them even when they're in the middle of something together. For example, Luke's father and his destiny. So we're talking about Vader. And even Luke himself, too. Like, they both had stories. Like, Luke had the hero's journey.
Oh, yeah.
The monomyth type story. And Vader had his, redemption story. Those are character arcs.
I feel like just as an aside, if Star Wars was like my home campaign, if I was a player, I would be pissed if somebody made up the Luke character. Like, that guy just runs off and goes and does his own shit the whole game. Like, occasionally shows up. Like, oh, you guys got all screwed up at Jabba? Here comes Luke, right? He just like strolls on in. He's like, give me Captain Solo. No problem. You've captured me. I'm going to waste everything. Like, I'd be pissed as hell at the player who got the Luke character. I'm Lando, right? Like, I'm just schlepping along trying to get things done. I lost my cloud station. I would just be pissed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Lando gets to blow up the second Death Star.
Yeah, but he loses like his cloud station. He has to like borrow Han's ride.
He wears Han's clothes.
Yeah, it's awkward. Very awkward.
I honestly think Lando's an NPC until after the until the middle. Like at some point, there's some other player that shows up. Like I want to play. I'm like, here, you can be Lando.
Yeah, here, play Lando. Everybody loves Lando.
Well, and then Lando's awesome, right?
That actually kind of makes sense, right? Like that kind of makes sense. And then that player's like, well, Han has a Chewbacca. Like, what do I get?
Get a Sulston.
Yeah, right.
He also has to get saved by Han at one point in time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Lando. Where's Lando? Yeah.
That's right.
That'd be great. I would love to do a thing if Star Wars was a
role-playing game.
Like just like a whole parody of, like the Luke players whining constantly, right? Like, what do you mean I'm hanging upside down in the ice cave? I'm gonna use my lightsaber. Oh, well, it fell on the ground. Well, I want it. Well, make a roll. Oh, come on, man. Modifiers are so hard.
So something happens though, because he whines a lot less in Jedi.
Well, because he leveled up. Like, he's like the wizard that gets Fireball.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Before Fireball, like, Luke just sucks, right? And then, like, he levels up in time for Jedi, and then he, like, shows up, and he's like, check it out. Like, I got like, all new threads, and choking Gamorrean guards, and just, like, yeah.
Choking Gamorrean. He does choke the Gamorrean guards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Where are
all
we
right,
at
sorry,
here?
let's return.
Sorry about that tangent. I guess we're going long, huh, Bob?
We're going long.
Was Vecchione on the show?
Yeah, we're going long. So we talked about focuses. Let's talk about continuous versus non-continuous.
Yes.
So arcs can be continuous, played from session to session. That is, if we're taking arcs as like individual like bits, stories, and we're not going to do the thing that we're going to talk about in a second, which is intermixing them.
Yes.
Then you can just play them from session to session. Like the arc just goes on.
And we see this a lot when we're going to play like a short campaign, right?
Yep.
Like we're going to play a short arc campaign. We're not going to space anything. We're just going to run like 4 or 5 stories in a row. Done.
Yeah.
Arcs
can also be played in non-consecutive sessions with other things happening in between.
So the first example I'll use of this is the X-Files,
Sure.
right? Like that Carter thing was, the mythos stories with the monster of the week.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I mean, other ones have used it too. Buffy, Xena. Xena had a bunch of those where it'd be a whole bunch of stories, and then there'd be like the singing episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just, jam one in there and then just keep going.
They do stuff like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like modern television television. Yeah. Misdirected Mark word scramble. Modern TV storytelling techniques have gotten away from that and gone more to, even if you have a monster of the week type story or a problem of the week type story, there's always a meta plot going on.
Yeah, well, that's like, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's the best of both worlds, but it lets you produce something. Let's be honest, it works great for syndication.
It does work great for syndication
because it allows you to have one show that does that a lot, especially in the latter series. The latter half of the series is Criminal Minds.
Mm-hmm.
So Criminal Minds is always capture a serial killer.
Yeah,
that's the episode. But they took to, in the last 3 or 4 seasons, they put a meta plot in that the last 10 minutes of every episode
mm-hmm.
deals with the meta plot until the finale.
Interesting.
So
now I brought that up for a reason. I think that's notoriously hard to do in role-playing games.
Yeah.
Like it's not efficient because you don't have a table of writers writing these episodes, and you're trying to come up with stuff. If you're the game master and you're playing heavy prep games, then that's a lot of work trying to come up with a new story every week that is just sort of standalone.
Well, and I mean, one of my biggest challenges is actually writing enough for it to be one session. Like I inevitably write it, and then by the time the players play it,
mm-hmm.
it's like too much
mm-hmm.
for one session. So I often play like one session is like all of one story, and then the next session is like the end of that story plus some other shit and the beginning of the next story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this weird striped kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of tools out there that help us do that. I'm going to get into that in for a second because we're on a tangent just a little bit. If you were playing fantasy games that have dungeons, 5-room dungeons are great for this.
Yes.
There's a lot of them, a lot of variations on the 5-room dungeon that are out there that you can pick up. And then you can apply whatever skin you want that works for you that week. You just pick a monster, populate your 5-room dungeon with that monster or monster type or that combination of monsters that you pick, and you got your game for that week. If you're into dungeon delving, that's what you want to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other kinds of, I guess you can go pick up like Eureka. That'll help.
Yeah, because it'll give you little plots.
Yeah,
right?
little
you
plots.
can just sprinkle in there.
Mm-hmm. So that's another way to do it.
Yeah.
They're system neutral. So those are 2 tools right there. You have any tools for if somebody actually wants to do individual stories every week? My big advice is don't get too complicated because you're playing. It's just a one-off for a week. So just do as little amount of work as you can because let your players fill in.
I mean, honestly, you can use anything that's inspirational. Rory story cubes, story cards, any of those kinds of things. I mean, hell, you can take from Swords Without Master and do the Eidolon thing where you just get an image.
Yep.
And just be like, well, little side plots about the image thing here.
Yeah, it's also dependent on the game that you're playing too.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I like non-consecutive arcs for the beat structure thing, right? Like this is that Robin Laws thing. Like too many sustained beats in a row will make you numb to that beat.
See, I like mixed story arcs.
Oh well, I mean, aren't we now going to get to that part?
Yeah, we should probably talk about that.
So let's now talk about that.
So multiple arcs can be threaded together non-consecutively, creating a very complex story structure.
Yes. Now this is where we start to mix things, like we can mix a meta arc and a character arc.
Yep, or multiple character arcs with the meta arc.
Yeah. So as soon as we do that, now we're juggling.
We are, but there's another thing to it. Like it sounds like it's harder, but it's actually easier because you're giving yourself more material to work with.
It is. And the only thing that you really need to do on the back end of it is keep some notes about how things have progressed so that you can kind of stay with it. Because if you're going to have a non-consecutive arc and then you're bringing in other arcs in between, when you go back to pick up, like say, like I often, and I don't know how you do it, but I like one meta arc, and then I will thread in character arcs in between them. I don't tend to do like 2 or 3 full meta arcs. I tend to do like that one big meta arc and an individual campaign or individual character things. Now, I need to be able to, every time I come to pick back up the meta arc, I need to remember what happened cleanly. Like, because the thing about arcs and the thing about campaigns is continuity.
Yes.
So you have to have those connective tissue between session to session, and you can't screw up continuity.
Yeah, continuity is king when it comes to campaigns.
Right. We talked about this on Gnomecast, didn't we?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, like first Gnomecast, we talked about continuity.
Yep.
Like continuity is really the secret. So, and I have gone from heavy prep to light prep.
And by the way, we're not talking about continuity to the campaign setting or anything like that. We're talking about continuity of your campaign.
Right.
The game that you were playing.
Right. If you killed an NPC in session 3,
Yeah.
he better not show up in session 4 unless you brought him back from the dead and you have a reason.
Or your organization that was an opposing organization at some point in time. You cold, Bob?
No, he's gone full Sith.
He's gone full Sith. Nice. Your organization that has gone that was acting out against the player characters, all of a sudden, for no reason at all, doesn't feel that way anymore.
Right.
And you give no explanation for it ever.
Right.
Like,
yeah, so continuity is the thing, and I will even say, like, even in my light prep, the activity I still do at the end of a session is to jot a few notes on an index card to leave it for future fill.
yeah.
Like, here's the shit that went down, future Phil. You're going to want to know this 2-3 weeks from now when you pick up the notes for this again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about multiple arcs threaded together, there's a couple of ways that this happens. You have a story arc mixed with several character arcs that can be very enjoyable. It can be tricky though, like you said. I like, and that's just taking, like, when you're doing individual sessions about those different arcs and you're not putting them together. My favorite thing to do is when I can have those moments where the story arcs mix together, so that you have either the meta plot, the meta whatever story that's going on, and a character story mixing together, or even more than one of them mixing together.
Like when they collide together?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. So that's like, so that's great. So let's do this. Let's do this in a building up kind of fashion. So meta arc is fantastic, right? So if you're completely novice, do a meta arc.
Yes.
Just do that. Then do a non-contiguous meta arc and just put some one-shots and other stuff in between. Then, like, level 3 is now take a character arc and just do the character arc in the non-contiguous portions. And then 4, like the advanced class, is that the NPC from the character arc is a key NPC in the meta arc.
Yep.
Like, your uncle is the head of the secret cult.
Or your father is the dark overlord of the Sith.
Correct.
And the right-hand man of the Emperor.
Yeah, so, like, that's that build-up thing. And when it works, so I will say this, when it works, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
When it doesn't work,
it's
not
not
jarring. Yeah. Like, it's...
And you talked about that level thing, that build-up thing. You can do that in a campaign. Like, one campaign. Like, start with your meta arc, run a couple adventures that go off of your meta arc, then start dropping in your character things. Like, start them off where you can, then start, using those beats back and forth, and then start mixing them like that. Like, start dropping the character stories in there. That's a lot of how TV shows that a lot of us like, they build up their story and build buy-in for us. If you look at Firefly, the episode where who's the bad guy that the boss, the gang,
the guy who tortures Mal
Yeah.
and stuff. Oh, I forget his name. Okay, but yeah, I'm with you.
So that episode,
Yeah.
he's a meta arc bad guy at times. He's a meta arc bad guy at times. That story is a very Wash, Mal, and Zoe centric story, because it's about Wash's relationship with Zoe. Zoe, right? I'm getting that right. Yeah. Because it's been a while since I watched Firefly, and how Mal and Zoe are together too, and how there's the jealousy there too.
Right.
So it's very centric to those three characters, that episode, but it's also very centric to a meta plot that's been going on for a while, because I forget the bad guy's name, but he doesn't like them very much because they messed him up earlier.
Right.
So that is a prime example of how you can eventually do that.
Right. And you shouldn't be thrown off by that level of complexity. Just build towards it.
Yes.
And The secret is, as you're building towards it, keep copious notes until you don't need to keep copious notes anymore.
Also build towards it. Don't start with all that right away. It doesn't work.
Yeah, in fact, actually, it's too much. It's overloading for the players if all of a sudden you launch your whole campaign with like 4 character arcs and the meta arc all at once.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why the cliche they met in a tavern and like went to a dungeon thing exists, because it's a nice way to ease in.
Yeah. A thing that sort of helps facilitate that is session 0.
Yeah.
Like that's a good way, because then you start getting a feel for what this character arcs are going to be and what the meta arc is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, but I agree. Like don't jump in.
Yeah. Even if you have that information, you're right. First session, first story,
right.
Maybe hint at a few things, but just focus on one of them.
And
mostly the meta arc.
I'll even further caution, if this is your first time running the system,
Yeah.
also go easy, because if you are trying to juggle this level of plot complexity on a rule set that's complex that you don't really know, you're not doing any of them well.
No, I tried to do that with New Era, and I thought I was being very successful at it, but then we just had a thing that happened.
Yeah, I actually thought you were actually pretty successful. I will say that the Cipher system, I think, helped you greatly.
It's very easy to run.
For instance, I did not monkey around too much with personal arcs in Knights Black Agents.
Yeah, because that game is complex.
Right, because it was taking like all I had to give you the main mystery, plus keep the wheels turning on the mechanics. And we were just getting to the part where
now you were just starting to lean on our pillars.
Yeah, just a little on those, but those, I mean, we went sessions
before
I was comfortable. Like
it was session 6 before you leaned on my character's girlfriend.
Yeah, that was actually it's a good tip. Like these are good things to do, but there's ease into them.
Yeah, sprinkle them first.
Right, and also don't do this in a five story mini campaign. Like in a 5 mini story campaign, dial down the complexity. Like have an arc plus a character or two.
Yeah,
don't
and maybe try to get every character their little arc if you want.
Right, or just give them good spotlight time in the meta arc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's talk.
That's really good.
Now about length of arcs. The tea.
No, that discussion.
That discussion. The tea is good too.
The tea is delicious.
What are you drinking?
This is orange spiced black tea.
Yeah, I had a maple apple tea.
Yeah,
it was great. We're not drinking coffee tonight. It's weird.
And yet we're this hyper.
Yeah, let's talk about length of arcs.
Sure. I mean, this is pretty easy, right?
It's pretty simple stuff.
All right. So, if an arc has to have a beginning, middle, and end, and an arc can't be
one story,
therefore the minimal length of an arc is 2 stories.
Yes.
Of which, in those 2 stories, you have to get the beginning, and middle, and end.
I'm thinking about all the people that are now saying, but you can totally have one arc as one story, and I'm like, yes, you can, but we're just giving the base.
Well, that's just a story.
Yeah, it's just a story.
Right, because as we said, a story has a beginning, middle, and end. So if I just come to the table and run a story, that's fine.
That's true.
It's not an arc.
Yeah.
It's not interconnected. That's what our definition of arc was interconnected stories.
Yes.
So 2. Okay. If you're going to do a really short arc, 3 is a good number. Beginning, middle, end.
See Star Wars,
right? New Hope, Empire, Jedi.
Yeah.
Really.
It'll in fact give you the structure for how to do that too. Because in New Hope, it introduces everything, right?
Yes. And you have an incremental victory, right? We blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
We blow up the Death Star. Everything's going well.
And strangely enough, if you really take a look at Star Wars, even you can even break that down further, because there's the beginning of that, which is its own little story, where it's getting everybody onto the Falcon and off into space.
Sure. I mean, well, that's your beginning of your campaign, right?
Then we get caught in the Death Star, and then we have to escape from the Death Star.
Right.
That's and then there's we have to blow up the Death Star.
Yeah. I mean, it's really like, if we're diving into this, there's 3 stories. Maybe if I'm running this as my game, like that's 3 adventures that I wrote over 3 or more sessions.
Yep.
And my first one, of course, is the how to bring all the characters together. Right. And of course, the person who's playing Princess Leia, they couldn't play that day.
Yeah.
So I just captured him, put him on the Death Star.
Yeah, and then you blew up their planet in front of their face.
Right.
That's mean. You're mean.
This is what you get for not showing up to my game.
Oh, it's brutal.
Oh, you had a thing? Well, I had a thing too. Tell us where the rebel base. No.
That's the funny part when when the players are like, "We want a planet-destroying weapon." Okay, sure.
Oh, sure. Oh! You didn't want me to have the planet-destroying weapon? Right.
We're very Star Wars exemplary tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so Star Wars is that, like you said, it's such a great example of ARC, and on top of it, let's admit it's a cultural touchstone
Yeah.
that
Pretty much everybody listening to this probably knows what it is.
Exactly.
If they don't, I'm surprised.
it's super easy for us to pull examples out of this.
Yeah. So the beginning is that, like you said, it introduces the characters, introduces everything that's going on, sort of get you to the Empire and stuff. The second part is you put the characters in the worst situation possible.
You just start punching people in the teeth.
Yeah, you just do it the entire time.
Right.
And if you're doing a good job of it, you start raising a bunch of questions while it's going on, because you're getting the characters to question themselves, and you're getting the characters to question what's going on in the meta plot, meta arc.
Everything goes bad, right? Like,
yeah.
yes, and then you pay it all off and close up all those loops.
Yep, because then you give them the opportunity and you structure it so that they have the chance to tie up all the loose threads.
Absolutely.
And if you're doing a good job, then they don't know what's going on. Then they will never be sure if they win or lose at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for a while, looks like the whole thing's,
Fubar?
yeah, until the, angry teddy bears launch their.
Who doesn't love angry teddy bears? A lot of people don't love angry teddy bears, but that's besides the point. I actually like the angry teddy bears.
I actually do too.
I love me some Ewoks.
But wasn't there a, God, I can't remember if it was an internet thing or if it was a How I Met Your Mother thing, but you can tell the relative age of somebody by whether or not they like Ewoks.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how old they were when Jedi came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else we want to talk about concerning the length of arcs? Like,
No.
there's no real.
Oh,
upper
I mean,
limit.
so we talked about the short end of it.
Yeah.
The large end, there's really no upper limit. Like, as long
just
as you
keep
get the
playing.
beginning, middle, and end in there.
It's kind of funny too, because it's all about connective material, right? At some point, the thing that connects arc to arc ends up just being the characters.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, once you've gotten that big.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
like see Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a pretty good example of that. Like, at some point, we know what the structure sort of is, and they're not even fighting the same bad guys anymore. And even in season 6, it's not about fighting bad guys, really. I mean, come on, the male witch trio. I love those guys, but they're not actually what that season's about, because it's about Willow and about Buffy being alive again.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way, for oh man, I hope nobody's
Emily.
listening that haven't seen
Hope
Buffy.
you didn't ruin it for Emily.
Oh,
Good job, Chris.
Whoops.
All right.
Hey man, it was like a decade and a half ago.
Feel
man.
like spoilers off on that one?
Spoilers off. Sorry. So let's talk about what goes into an arc.
Yeah. So what we're shooting for here is we want an arc to feel like a novel or a TV series, or even a collection of novels.
I agree.
Right. So that's what we're shooting for. So we need to have some base ingredients.
We do.
So we need to have an introduction orientation.
That is A New Hope, because it lets us get a feel for the characters.
Right. Like we got Luke, he's whining, and R2, he's obstinate, and C-3PO's, whining, which makes sense because Anakin made him.
Yeah.
So,
We also get a feel for what they want and what they desire.
Oh, on a serious note, yes, we
Yes.
actually do. Right.
Yeah.
Luke wants to get off the planet, and
Han wants to pay off his debt.
right. We're setting up our stakes kind of early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We need a threat. We got to have threat in our...
You got to introduce some sort of threat, be it an organization or an individual.
Yep.
Preferably both.
Yeah, and in this case, our threat is the Empire.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's tricky. It's tricky in role-playing games, because you never want to show off your...
Right.
Yeah.
Unless... you never want to show off your...
Big bad end guy.
Your big bad, unless your organization is so big that there's no direct route at them.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do, especially like, for instance, if you're playing Savage Worlds, is like, let's say we're playing Savage Worlds, the Star Wars game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't put Vader in that Death Star scene where everyone's shooting in the hangar.
Yeah.
Because in Savage Worlds, somebody hits Vader on a raise and does like 44 points of damage and kills his ass.
It's true.
Like, that's where you need lieutenants, right? Like,
Or you implement the rules for wildcards not being killed when they're killed.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like, you cheat. Is what
Hey,
you,
it's not cheating if it's a rule.
right. Well, if you implement it at the time of death, it's cheating.
It's
But,
cheating, yeah, that's true.
but anyway, my point being is that
What do you think, Emperor?
I think you should continue.
Okay.
okay.
Nothing to say there, huh?
Just waves his hand. I think you should continue.
Yes. I
Yes,
think I
we'll
should
continue.
continue.
So yeah, you're right. Like you want to introduce it, but it's tricky because players tend to want to run up and punch things in the face.
Yeah.
So you have to like introduce it at a distance, or make it so big like that they would be like, nope, that's stupid. We can't possibly punch the Knights of Takhisis as a whole organization in the face.
That's true.
You know that you need that. But if it's like, hey, Baron von Badass lives over there, in that mountain.
It's good for the boot reference.
Thanks. The player's going to be like, well, let's go kick Baron von Badass's, ass. And they're heading in that direction. You're like, yeah, but I got this other stuff. And they're like, nope, would go handle this problem right now. Your arc is suddenly.
Man, I would so cut to, well, now you're all in the dungeon.
Right. Well, you totally lost that fight.
But we didn't even fight. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Do you want to get embarrassed?
All right. So we need a threat. We're going to need some sort of rising action or try-fail cycles, right? We need something to do as we're moving through the middle of this arc.
Yeah. The try-fail cycle is hard in role-playing games because often in role-playing games, the assumed part of failure is death.
Right.
Not anymore as much with certain games.
No.
That is a thing. So when we're talking about try-fail cycle, we're talking about difficult choices that have consequences. That is we put the, like I said, the motivations of characters front and center, the things that they care about. We harm them or take them away or do bad things to them and see how the characters react to that, because that's what the try-fail cycle really is in role-playing games.
And here's the secret. The middle part can be slow if it takes too long. Like, you can't drag on the rising action forever. Likewise, you also can't make the rising action too short.
Wow, you just thought of something. Then the climax will be.
It just won't be as satisfying,
Yeah,
right? Like,
come on.
And if it's too long, it'll be anticlimactic, and you need it right at the right spot.
It's called little. You want little victories in there. You want little climaxes. That's why.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
Like
a
the
good
little death.
idea. Like the little death.
Right.
Can't talk to you anymore.
There's a rhythm thing involved.
My God, it just now my head is there. It's worse. Okay,
Right?
So,
Are you
anyways,
with me? You get it, right?
yeah, I get it.
Okay.
I get it. There's a rhythm that's what we call pacing, right?
Listen, if a GM is really good at pacing,
Mm-hmm.
they're probably really good at something else too.
I would imagine so.
Just saying. Okay.
All right. So, it just goes to beat structure. Like that's a good way.
That's what I'm saying.
It just goes to beat structure.
Uh-huh.
You should study beat structure, and that is how you get better at pacing, which is how you get better at this try-fail cycle, because then you can see when you should give. You can actually visibly see when you should give them a fail, or
Yes.
we should give them a hard choice, I should say, and you should put in front of them an easy victory, or at least a victory that they can achieve. And also, you can put in those beats even that you're not sure. Like it could go one way or the other.
Right. So and sometimes you got to rest them. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you have to have an adventure that's literally about nothing. Like them kind of bumming around in town, buying equipment.
sometimes,
No,
I
not
don't know.
always. But have you ever had one of those ones where I've had this? Like
We
this
didn't have a
happened-
single one of those playing Dungeon World.
We did not. But like for instance, like I played Corporation where we went on like mission after mission after mission after mission, and then like one day I was like, no missions, go shopping, and have a bunch of NPC interactions. Like everybody take a breather. Like you can't it's hard to live your life like under constant threat of fire.
Yeah.
Now you say the Airy Peaks, but Airy Peaks had a lot of location change. Like
Yeah.
we weren't always in the dungeon. Sometimes we were back at town.
It's about identifying what your beat structure is and doing that.
Yes. So if you're like what you always want to avoid is that sustained heavy beat and the converse of that sustained low beat. You really want the fluctuation.
Yeah, because, for instance, everyone, the beat structure of the Airy Peaks was adventuring
Yes.
and then gathering information. Those were the two beats, the two major beats of the Airy Peaks,
Oh yeah.
which, along with that gathering information, went interaction, like conversations. But even those conversations were one about building relationships, or they were about getting information so that you could go back into the mountain and adventure. So that was the rhythm of the game.
Yes.
So like Knights Black Agents, our rhythm was hunting down vampires or being hunted by vampires, or that happened a lot. And then there were scenes that you allowed us to have where we were driving in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
where we would make fun of Dave's character for carrying around a sword.
Carrying around a sword,
Yeah.
but at least he carried it in a map.
In
case.
a map case, because that made it so much better.
Right. But those parts were funny.
They
right?
were hilarious.
Like,
'cause
so we
were
had a comedy beat.
because he couldn't speak any of the foreign languages, but yet we all could. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was a comedy beat, right?
It was a comedy beat. Like it was a time to like have a little levity, and then back to the terror.
We stuck a lot of those in there, strangely enough, because it was a horrific game in a lot of ways.
Well, and I mean, I think, and that's actually kind of necessary, right? Like too many of those horrific beats in a row, and either you become unnerved or numb.
Mm-hmm.
And numb is the worst thing in a horror game.
It's true.
Because then characters get like blasé about it. Like
Yep.
you have to be freaking out a little.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what beat structure is, Hamlet's hit points.
Yeah. And even if you're not going to read all of Hamlet's hit points, just read the section where he tells you if you're not going to read this, just know this stuff.
Yeah.
Smart. And I think he's working on something else.
He is. It's a larger book having to do with beat structure.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm really excited about that.
I mean, people ask us about beat structure all the time. I suppose
I will write the forward.
We should probably talk about beat structure at some point in the future. You should probably pin that, Bob. I don't know if it's pinned or not.
Ding.
Thank you. Please.
If anybody asked in the chat room, I haven't been looking. Maybe they didn't. So then there's the climax, the pivotal session where the threat is directly confronted.
I mean, you have to have this. Like, you can't just have like a bunch of rising action and then wrap things up.
Yeah.
Like, something's got to go down.
Yeah.
And really, your arc, whether it is overt or not, your arc has been pointing towards this the whole time. And you may not know at the beginning of the arc what that is, like where that confrontation occurs. But somewhere in the middle of the arc, it'll become obvious. Like, we're all on a path heading for this moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you know it in advance.
If it's like overthrowing the Dark Lord.
I mean, that was my El Hall campaign, was like overthrowing the Demon King. Like, that was day 0, right? 3 years went into how do you actually get there to do it.
So here's the fun thing for those climaxes too. When there's not just one path at some point, like you have an option, but it's might be interesting. Like, what if that whole thing was, and it's not, because this is not how El Hall worked, but what if the whole thing was like, do we overthrow the Demon King or do we cleanse the Demon King's soul?
Right.
Like, then that's a completely different game.
Right. I mean, I'll be honest. Getting rid of the Demon King was nothing was telegraphed. So I never said anything like you're standing over the dead body of the Demon King. Like, it was always like the Demon King has to go. So if in the course of the story that had arisen, yeah, that'd have been legit. Like, I would have gone with that. That would have been perfectly fine. But I knew from the beginning, like, this campaign isn't over until this thing happens.
And then after that is the conclusion and the aftermath of the climax. So that's like wrapping everything up. So you have some closure to what's going on, or you create some questions to provide your starting point for your next arc.
Kind of seed your next arc. Yeah. I mean, and I think that much in life, I think that GMs often rush this part. Like, they have the climax and then they get really excited about starting the next arc, and they don't give again, this is a beat structure thing, right? They don't give enough attention to slowing down, wrapping up a few things, letting the characters kind of celebrate that victory and kind of prepare for that next arc. Like, maybe they want to do some research. Maybe they want to go find an old mentor. Like, sometimes GMs just kind of take that climax and then like slam the next like arc right into it.
I know I did that once and it didn't work as well as I wanted it to.
Right. Like,
I mean, it worked fine because then I gave, yeah, keep going. Then I'll talk about it.
Right. But what happens is it's like, oh my God, we had this, like huge epic battle. And then it's like, but bam, the next arc is starting. And like, you don't get that feeling of, did I level up? Did I change? How am I, dramatically different? Like, look at those transitions. Like, look at Luke from New Hope to the beginning of Empire to the beginning of Jedi.
5 years and then 6 months.
Right. Like, level up. Like, by the time he gets stuck on the roof of the cave, he can get the lightsaber. And by the time he gets to Jedi, like he's mind tricking his way into Jedi's palace.
He's got all the Jedi skills.
Right. Like if you too quickly jam those together, the player loses that satisfaction.
Yeah. So my Second Sons game, my 4th edition D&D game, I picked up. I thought we were done. Like I thought we were done. Like that was the game. They wanted to keep playing, so I'm like, well, I got another thing we could do. But then I picked this up right after the last session ended, at the very moment because of what was going on. After that session was over, which provided the undead threat that had arisen from their actions, then I fast-forwarded 6 months and then asked them all that stuff.
Right.
So they were still mad at me because they're like, you couldn't just give us a win for a little while? I'm like, no. You wanted to keep playing.
Right.
Like, I was done.
I mean, there's times where I just want to like torch a campaign. Like, no, don't make me run another arc of this thing. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Like, there were still questions that need to be answered and whatnot. But
Yeah. Well, that's good. If you had stuff.
oh, I had tons.
Like I got to the end of El Hall and I was like, we're done.
If the people that were playing in that game still lived here, we'd still be playing it.
Nice.
And well, we'd probably be done by now because we would have finished because we all would have been level 30. But yeah. So that's that. What else can arcs have? They can have non-related stories. Not every session of that arc has to be related to the main threat. You don't have to have that. It's that Chris Carter method that you talked about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of that. Chris
I like
Carter.
when you start nodding at me when I say something.
Yeah.
Because it's radio.
Yeah. And then I remember.
Yeah.
I remember that it's not a visual medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course you can mix other arcs into that.
Absolutely.
So let's see what's going on in the chat room for life.
Well,
they're naughty.
Oh, yeah, of course they are.
let's just say,
If they're going to be naughty, we can save it for the after show.
yeah, well, there is a legitimate question in here.
Okay.
The rest of it might just be naughty.
Avi the Jackal said, how does the threading multiple story arcs relate to PBTA fronts and clocks?
They're exactly PBD
They
fronts and
are.
clocks. That's what
There
fronts
you
and
go.
clocks are. They're a mechanized version of those things.
Exactly.
If you don't know what fronts and clocks are, fronts are a list of things that will occur over time that bad guys or antagonists are doing. Clocks are the actual clock of them advancing their it's a visual thing, like you can fill in the clock, and as it fills in, things happen. So that is a visual way to see what is going on in your game and where you're at. They're very good tools for measuring out what is going on during your story arc.
There you go. Excellent.
Did I answer that well, Phil?
I thought that was excellent.
Okay.
That was
So
very
much so,
excellent.
I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with that answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. The only other thing I'll say before we move on is that we've kind of known a little bit for a while now, but Sean P. Kelly's in the chat room tonight.
Oh boy.
And he happened to point out that there's a lot of innuendo that
Really?
could be read into a lot of the things in this topic particularly.
No,
And the chat room
no, I don't think that's true.
ran with it. And I mean ran with it.
I don't think that's true, right? I mean, we were just having an above board
Yeah,
conversation
completely. There's nothing
about pacing
There was-
and
there were-
climaxes
and beat structure.
yeah. I mean,
You know, and
there's
getting-
no way that translates to anything else.
Nope,
No,
not
no.
at all.
Not at all.
You know, about you don't want to get to the climax too soon, but you don't want to prolong it too long.
You want to rest
I
afterwards.
mean, unless you're in climax, and you're into climax denial, like
Oh, you almost get to the big bad guy, and then
Yeah.
the big bad guy disappears.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it can be awesome.
I'm actually a fan of that in campaigns.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
Yeah.
Or-
Just you bring out the big bad, and then you just take the big bad away. Like he escapes before
Yep,
the fight.
and then you do it again,
Oh,
and
big
then you
bad.
do it again.
Yeah.
And you do it about 2 or 3 times, and then you let them kill the big
yeah.
bad guy.
I mean, you wait till
It's-
basically the players
it's
can't
so
take
much
it
more
too much
satisfying.
Longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right. Are we done?
we're good.
I want to high five you. Right
I don't know if we're done. I think we're close.
There, you guys satisfied in the chat room? You happy now?
Wow.
See what you did?
I think we have to put an R rating on this one, man.
See what you did in the chat room? That's your fault.
PG-13. Don't. We are explicit. You have been
Yes,
warned. So
we
never
are
mind.
explicit.
So arc questions.
Uh-huh.
These were from Uffy.
Yes.
Can you help us to pull our sessions into stories with beginnings that raise questions, try and fail cycles, and then rest points that resolve questions, either finally or raising new questions? Yes, I think some of the stuff we've talked about is doing that. But tools to help you do this, to pull your sessions into stories with beginnings that raise questions, is session 0, right? or at least having a mini session 0 or like a 10-minute intro that is like that, like
Yeah.
raising those questions and whatnot. There are games that have mechanics that do stuff like this. For instance, the obligation, or those mechanics that are in the Star Wars games, where you roll on the die, you roll the D100, and if somebody's obligation or their whatever number gets rolled, then that thing is going to come up and play. So you can actually ask a question about that if you want to. It's like, well, this is a thing that's going to happen. Let's talk about how it might happen. You can do that if you want. You don't have to. It's not in the rules, but that's a thing that you can take advantage of.
Absolutely.
You can even just take advantage of that with a character. If you want to use like the Primetime Adventures model, like, well, you're the Spotlight character this week. What part of your character do you want to arise and play? And then the game master can make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do that in between sessions, where before I prep a session, I'll just ask. I often will do this with my campaigns, where I'll ask players, like, what do you guys want to do next session?
Yes. For my example, if you were more a prep heavy game master and not a improvisational person like me most of the time, you can ask that at the end of a session so that they know next session that their thing is coming up.
Well, that's what I usually
that's
like
what
I
you
like
do.
to do it. I like to do it at the end of a session, because then I leave with that going, oh, let me now think about that heading into the next one.
That's, to me, that's getting your players to help you. Like that, I'm a big fan of that. Yeah.
Well, it's not only just getting them to help you. I mean, it's not only sourcing them, but it also it creates a higher investment, because if the things that they want are happening in the game, emotionally, they're higher invested.
Yeah.
Than if I just am like, well, Chris, I'm just, your uncle, which you never talked about in your backstory, shows up. Like, that's less interesting than if you at the end of a session tell me like, oh, you know what? If a relative came and like, bugged me right now that it came into all this money, like that would be great.
Yeah. There
Like,
you go.
oh, okay, well, yeah, let's do that.
Let's have a hanger on that wants, a piece of your fortune.
Exactly.
The try-fail cycle, we talked about that earlier. Try-fail cycles are hard in role-playing games because failure in a lot of games is like you could die, or there's no moving forward point from that.
So you had pinned try-fail cycle, right?
Yeah.
I want to pin onto that the idea of framing failure.
Yeah, framing failure is
because framing what failure is very subjective, and when done properly in a role-playing game, like, failure is amazing.
Yes, that is a wonderful thing that we should probably talk about at some point in the future if we haven't. I mean, I think I talked about it like 200 episodes ago.
Right, but the problem is
Would
that
you like me to ping failure?
Yeah, if you could,
or pin failure.
it's if not framed properly, then people don't want to fail.
That's
Ding.
true.
Like if like, for instance,
it's from
I'll
the
use the
dungeon book,
Pathfinder.
though.
I'll use the
Okay, yeah.
Pathfinder model. Often failure in combat in Pathfinder is you die.
Yes.
Okay, like you just run out of hit points, you die.
That is situation failure.
Yeah.
Not skill check or individual failure.
No,
Yeah.
but it's the outcome of combat. Like, you die.
Yeah.
No one likes that. So you'll go to great lengths to.
Some people don't mind that, depending on the kind of game that you like to play.
You're right.
Yeah.
Too broad of a stroke. But
Yeah.
I personally don't like that.
Yeah.
Now, in Dungeon World, I love failure. In fact, some of the best moments in our Dungeon World games have been on a 6-. Almost never have they actually been on a. I can't say never. A handful of times it's been on a 10+, but almost all the memorable ones are a 6-.
Yes.
Because it's how failure is framed.
Yep. It usually just makes it a lot worse.
Right. Like,
Which then you have a chance to get out of it.
our Action Movie World game that we played a couple weeks ago had a ton of failures, and it just got better. Like, every time it failed, it was like, oh, this is like, it was so good.
Yeah. So those are your try-fail cycles, right? Like it's about framing failure, how you frame failure. And the other one that I like to do is provide difficult choices, especially on failures, because then it's about that, like, what did you choose to do and how does it make you move forward from that point? Also, any failure that isn't actually necessarily personally harmful to the character, like in a permanent way, or even in a permanent way if it doesn't kill them, is also a good one too. For instance, I like to use, there's the Dresden Files, and this translates to the role-playing game too, when I can't remember what book, but when Harry is fighting a bunch of Blackheart vampires and he gets flamethrowed and he has to use his shield, which destroys his hand, so it basically melts from being on fire. He doesn't really use fire spells for a while, and his hand's all messed up, right? He's got like a waxy hand that's, he has to go through therapy to fix. So that's a great failure. Like, you put yourself in a bad spot and you didn't really do a good job of defending yourself, and you get your hand destroyed, and you can't use the fire magic that you're known for, really.
I will cite Zelazny's Amber Chronicles. I know you're not familiar with them, but Corwin's attempt to take the throne is a spectacular failure. Like,
go ahead,
I
talk
can
about
fully
it.
spoil it because it's
Yeah.
from the 70s. So Corwin is the main character. He and his brother try to take the throne from his other brother Eric. They fail in the middle. Like they try to assault the mountain that the castle's on. They fail, and Eric takes Corwin, burns his eyes out of his head, and throws him in a dungeon because you need to be able to see to use their abilities in that family. So he burns Corwin's eyes out, and throws him in a dungeon. Eventually Corwin grows his eyes back like 4 years later.
Okay, then.
So and Zelazny does a nice job of kind of compressing
Those
time
years,
in
yeah.
that part, but I mean, failure, right? Like, well, bye-bye sight, toss you in the dungeon, take you out once a year to parade you around, and then put you back in the dungeon.
Yeah,
Like it's a
nice.
great failure cycle, and then eventually he escapes. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about that one?
Nope, no, that's good. I think.
Well,
I think
he
we gotta-
mentions rest points and resolve questions. Like that stuff leads to what we're talking about, I suppose. Like when you have those questions raised from earlier, from asking the characters, you have those try-fail cycles. When you fail, it raises questions like, how do you get out of this, or what do you do now that you have this issue or this problem? And then that can help resolve questions. Or you can put those points in, if you know the questions, to let the players go after them. Because if the questions are raised by the players, then you can drop that stuff in there for them to go get. Right?
Mhm.
All right. Can you help us to stitch together stories into arcs that either branch, split, rejoin, or linearly fit together?
Yeah.
You want to start with this one?
Yeah, so when you're stitching stories, we're talking about continuity and consequences.
Yep, some stuff that we already talked about.
Right? We got to have continuity to connect them, and you got to have consequences. Stuff that happens in one story has to have a knockoff effect in another. Like you have to have that moment where players are sitting there and go, "Oh shit, we made that choice like 2 stories ago,
Yeah.
and now like look what we've done." That's the consequence piece.
Yeah, it works really great too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it makes it feel like the things that you did mattered.
Which is key because that's what makes a serial feel like a serial.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You talk about not writing your arcs in advance, and I completely agree with this. There's one thing that you say have ideas about what is ahead. Now, I like to do this trick where I know where I have my starting point, and then I kind of know. I have two things. I either know what the bad guys are trying to do
Right.
and what they will accomplish if the player characters don't get in the way, or I have an idea of where I want them to end up if it's a location.
Yep.
And then every choice that they make, eventually I start driving them towards that. Like
Exactly.
the questions that I get to come up with, point them that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done both styles, right? I've done the one where if left unchecked, this is what's going to happen. And I've done the one where I know I want this thing to be the climax of this. Like, I want to end here. But how we get there, we can figure out as we go.
Yep, absolutely. Good to go to the next one?
Yeah, I'm good.
What are the differences between stories that are at the beginning, middle, or end of an arc?
Right. So, again, we have our arc. We're going to have stories that fall in the beginning part, in the middle part, and the end part. In the beginning part, we don't want to give away too much. Our stories need to start revealing, but not giving a ton of information.
Yeah.
We need to basically provide an impetus to move into the middle.
Here's a skill that I always talk about that is, I think you're getting at it right now, that I always talk about being very important that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's information distribution. Like, how much information do you give at a time? How much is enough just to give so that we can get the player characters going in the right direction without giving them the whole goat or the cow or whatever?
Yeah, because if you give them too much, then they'll short circuit the middle because they'll start coming up with
or they'll get bored.
Right?
Yeah.
Then they'll feel like the middle is a spacer
Yeah.
because the middle is where they should really come to put all the pieces together.
If in that way, right? Like
Right.
they should learn all the things, and then the ending is them acting on all the things that they learn.
Yeah. So what the beginning is intent. What you should be doing in the beginning stories is whetting their appetite and pointing them in a direction. That's all the beginning needs to do is kind of get you interested in the arc and get you moving in the direction of how do we solve this arc.
No, there's another way to do that because we mentioned it earlier. Just put them in the worst situation humanly possible.
Sure. Well, that's great motivation,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the world is ending in 2 hours. Let's
Yeah.
begin our arc.
Or look, the Empire is attacking your ice base and they're messing you up.
Yeah,
Time
exactly.
to run
Like,
away from a Star Destroyer now.
let's get moving. Right. In the middle, we need to be making incremental progress, and we need to be having victories and setbacks.
Yes,
And we need to have some setbacks.
you do.
It gets a little Mary Sue if like all you do is keep succeeding. This is why, and we talked about this before the show started. This is why Empire is awesome,
Yeah.
right? Like we all loved Empire because at the end of Empire, Luke's standing there on the in the medical bay, missing a hand. Han's gone. The Millennium Falcon's leaving to go look for him, and you're just like, damn.
Can I tell you that last fight in Empire with Luke and Vader?
Yeah.
I feel like if that was a role-playing game, that the game master forgot to give Vader enough stats to beat Luke, which is why Luke kicks his butt at the beginning
Well, I
of
feel
it.
like he like tones it down, right? Like he's just like,
Well, I feel like he made a mistake, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm gonna have a fight, and then Luke's whooping on him, and it's like, oh, ramp it up. I'm gonna tweak a
I'm gonna
few
give him
numbers,
extra hit points here, and give him a little
a
bonus.
few
Right.
force points.
Yeah. Because all of a sudden it's like, before he just like flips the switch on the carbonate thing. The next thing he's chucking like a ton of crates at him.
He's throwing every piece of debris known to man at Luke,
Yeah.
and ripping stuff off the walls
Yeah.
with the Force, and he's like, ah.
Either that or the GM like totally baited Luke.
Yeah,
right? Like
that
he just
too.
like he played Vader super weak, and then was just like,
Yeah, roll another exploding 6 now. You
right, like now time to like dig in.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny.
So anyway,
Cool. And the end is about wrapping up loose ends, then, right?
the end, we want to be trying to close up as many loose ends. If we're not going to play this game again, then close up all of them.
Yes.
And if we are going to play this game in another arc, leave some out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to resolve all of them, but you do have to resolve the ones that bring the meta arc to a conclusion.
Yes. Or you can just jump the story 30 years into the future.
Again, the advanced class.
Yeah. All right.
So good stuff. Yep. Next question.
Very good stuff.
Last question.
Are there differences between stories that resolve questions about a character versus stories that resolve questions about a plot? Is that even a meaningful distinction?
It is.
Yes, it is.
And we talked about it
We talked about it a lot, in fact. And in fact, for the best example that I can think of in pop culture, just look at the end of Return of the Jedi. Not that it's necessarily the best of those movies because of teddy bears that are
Murdering
vicious.
teddy bears.
Yeah, I like when they're playing the
Murder
helmets at the
bears.
end. That's
They're basically playing like the heads of their enemies. Yeah. Don't judge their culture.
I'm not,
Oh, yeah, they're
but
drop bears. Ewoks are drop bears.
Drop bears.
but Luke's conflict with his father is the allegory for the fight between the Empire and the Rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
In fact, mechanically, if that's a game, the fight between Luke and Vader and the Emperor, especially Luke and the Emperor, and trying to turn Luke, is going to mechanically affect the fight that's going on at Endor in my game, because that's actually what's going on in the story. As the light side is winning, then the good guys get some bonuses down on the moon of Endor, and as the dark side is winning, and reverse it too, because Luke gets a boost when they blow up the shield generator. So yeah, they sync. They would sync for me
Yeah.
because of the Force.
Because the Force. So with that, you want to start extracting ourselves here from the workshop and get over to our social media?
Yeah, let's go do that. I'm gonna go find some. Hey, it's the devil head, the green devil head from the Tomb of Horrors.
Oh, let's not. No
Here-
touchy. No touchy.
Don't touch it, but here comes the coins. I can see them. It's like I got a pachinko machine in here.
Or that shitty NBC show with the ball.
Yeah, that too.
I was like, that's Plinko.
It's totally Plinko.
Like,
See, Plinko is a game that they played on a game show a long
not,
time.
It still
They still
exists.
play it. I watched it on
Yeah,
Monday.
it still exists,
I know,
man.
but it was
Why
still
Drew
funny.
Carey hasn't strolled over there and like kicked somebody's ass for Plinko? Don't mess with Plinko, man.
So, weight loss challenge, last one for the year. Last one for last year.
Last one for last year. I forgot to weigh myself today.
I didn't weigh myself either.
Let me just say that,
I was
New
last time I
Year's.
hopped on the scale, it was 261. So I'm still 9 pounds down from last year.
I'm 15 pounds down from last year, so
I'll
I'm
take-
I'm okay with that. I
I'll
would
take
like to be
9
more
down.
pounds down.
All right, David Walker, Weight Loss Challenge. Hello, friends. I thought I would get us kicked off with the final update for 2016. Also, for those in it for the whole year, post up your change from last January. It would be cool to see how far everyone has come. I am so thankful for the support I've received from the community this year. Seeing everyone kicking ass and being healthier has really helped me. Being part of this kicked me into gear, and I am much better off for it. So thanks all. Can't wait to see what we do this year. David Walker. Start 227, current 197, change down 2 pounds. After the brutal holiday season, I was able to get into it and drop some pounds. For the year, I started at 253, and I am down 56 pounds for the entire year.
That's ridiculous.
That is
Just
ridiculous
awesome.
and amazingly cool.
That is awesome.
Jared Rasher. Final weight for the year 223. His goal for this weight loss challenge was 220. His starting weight for this challenge was 262. He lost 39 pounds this year. That's pretty great.
That is awesome.
Sean B. Kelly. Yeah, I didn't make it. Not happy starting over. Where do I send my shit? We'll get to that next week or the week after. Randy Farmer. Made my goal. 270 minus 20 is 250 last week. So I'm sticking with that even though I'm up a bit at the moment. I don't know what I weighed in at the beginning of the year, so I'll just say 2016, 20 pounds. I'll report my current weight when the next season starts. Good job, Randy. Way to hit it. Sean Nicholson. I weighed in at 180 on Sunday morning. That's 5 pounds shy of my goal, but I think 16 less than I was last year at this time. I'm good with that. On the other hand, I ended the last weight loss challenge at 177, so I've got to watch that backsliding. That's okay. You're still down 16 less than you were at the beginning of the year, so that's a net positive right there.
Yipper.
Scott Robinson. I weighed just before New Year's for my official weight. I lost the 20 I had hoped for, 235 to 215. Now I'm considering adding some weights and might put some good weight back on. I think I will sit out this next round while I play around with my routine. This has been a great experience and motivated, though. Thanks,
Bravo.
Scott. Joe Schwick. I don't know my weight, but I know I failed. I just need an address to send my items to. We'll get to that, like I said. Bob.
I fell off the wagon hard. So go 2017. 2016 can die in a dumpster fire. Oh, wait, it already did. I finished the year at 200 and change, 200.2. So
That's okay.
I'm doubling down for 2017. I'm going to do it right.
So, for those who know, who didn't know, we'll give you the place that you can send us whatever you're supposed to send us, and we're going to put it in the charity auction for the Queen City Conquest this year, which that charity is for Women and Children's Hospital of Buffalo, New York.
It's always good. It's always good and always raises a nice amount of money.
What they do is they buy a bunch of toys with the proceeds for the kids at the hospital, toys and games, so that the kids who are sick, and some of these kids are really sick, get to play with actual fun things like video games and things that they actually would like to, new toys and stuff and such. It's last year we raised a lot of money. I think it was like $3,000. Might have been more than that. I can't remember. I'll have to ask Mark. It was a lot because we shaved Mark's head for a ton of money.
We did. It was
The whole thing was like $7,000.
You ever seen
wasn't it?
bears shaved?
Was it 7? I thought it was like 5. Maybe it was 5.
No,
I
there
thought
was
it
like a
3.
there was like a rally of money at the end or something.
I can't remember.
You ever seen a bear shaved? It's like pretty frightening.
That
It's
was
kind
Mark.
of like with Mark when they shaved
He
him.
looks a little like Vincent D'Onofrio,
A little bit.
like a scary version of Vincent D'Onofrio.
You know what I always remember is that I remember that Emmeline was like touching his beard and his hair before they shaved it off. Like she I think as he walked up, she was like holding his
Yep.
ponytail like in
Yeah.
her against her head.
Yep.
Yeah. Although I saw him before Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's looking good with the intermediate haircut.
He is.
Yeah, he's
I
looking
s-
sharp.
I saw him the other night, last week Thursday.
Yep.
Jared Rasher. Oh, Bob, you said, well, some of us didn't succeed, none of us failed. Mad props to everyone who put in their effort. And then Jared Rasher said again, thank you to everyone, both for passively holding my feet to the fire by giving me a place to post my progress and for actively cheering me on. And then Chris Shorb, he said, I am down a little less than a pound after jumping out at the mid-year mark. That's a bit over 19 pounds shy of my goal. But in 2013, I lost 45 pounds over the course of 10 months, beginning in January of that year. So I know it's possible. I'm in again for the first half of 2017. Oh, yeah. What's the address to send our stuff? Should we just send it to Napic?
Yeah, no, we'll organize.
Yeah, we'll organize.
We'll organize. Don't worry.
All right. Next thing. Malcolm B. Anderson. He is a listener who was listening to some of our backlog. And about 2 years ago, we were talking about, you and me, we're talking about game design at the time. We were starting to work on a game codenamed Twist. I have no idea what this is.
I'm going to help you with this.
Yeah.
You were working on this writer's table game and I think you were messing around with cards or some
Oh,
idea.
I remember it now. It was
See?
bad.
There we go.
That's why it
I,
was like
I reminded you.
I couldn't figure it out. Like I remember playing with it was a card play, like just a deck of cards before I got comfortable with writing on cards. I'm like, well, we have this resource, and the numbers in the cards are the resource, and everybody antes up and bids up a card, and whoever wins it gets to tell that next part of the story. And I'm like, I hate this game. It's stupid. So that was what that was. I was wondering what it was. That was episode 148.
Yeah.
That's almost 100 episodes ago.
Yeah, that's before Bob was on the show.
Yeah.
And
Long time.
We try not to we try not to answer anything about those days. Like,
That's not true because Bard episode was then.
was there fiction back that far?
I don't know. I think it might have been dead by that time.
I think we might have killed it by then.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
For those hardcore listeners, remember what we talk about when we talk about the fiction.
Yeah. So Jeremy Downey says that we're wrong because we didn't say Twilight Struggle for App Game of the Year.
I will say this: I was unaware that Twilight Struggle was out in
I
app
didn't
form,
know either, man.
so I went and downloaded it because
How much is it?
$5.
Maybe I'll go get it.
It's a game I always wanted to play, but like I was fiercely intimidated by the board game.
I don't want to play for 11 hours. I want to play for like 2.
Right. Well, when a game gets to that complexity, one, I don't want to play for that long, and two, I want the AI to do most of the work,
Yeah.
which is what I hear this thing does.
So I will have to go and grab that myself. So here's an email from a Noabon. He sent it to all of us. Bob didn't get excited. Apparently the email is not redirecting the right way, which I'm going to fix.
It was too much PB&J porn. It broke it.
Got me.
Man, that's not right.
Hey, guys.
I mean, there's none if you ask Chris.
That's true because I couldn't find
Chris
it.
searches, there's none, but
Apparently not.
yeah.
Hey, guys. Really great episode number 240, Year in Review. It moved me enough to shoot you some comments. I got into listening to podcasts this year, and so I've been trying out various casts like a kid in the candy store. There are only 3 podcasts I'm always caught up on and patronize, and you are one of them. Cardis is another.
I heard those guys are all right.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I think you produce quality material, and all 3 of you speak to me as a longtime gamer with stuff that I can relate to and use. The greatest impact the show has had for me is to help bridge the gap in RPGs to the story-focused game. Most of us learn RPGs by playing with others, and as the GM of my group for 20-plus years, it's easy to fall into habits with the same people playing the same games. Through your podcast, you have added a dimension to Fate that I did not see before, introduced me to Powered by the Apocalypse games, and identified for me those elements that were missing in my current campaign when we started searching for better story development. There was a place my group once found with Vampire in the 90s, and my players want that again in a different game. You helped me to codify what that is and how to get back to it. I could not imagine the show without the dynamic the 3 of you create. Chris, Phil said it best that you have an honest, no BS way of expression that is rare. You are always respectful, but you are also the kind of person that one can depend on for honest input. I can see why you are valid as a collaborator in design, because your feedback is stronger knowing you do not give unwarranted praise.
Man, ain't that the truth?
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, look, I made a thing. Yeah, this thing you made, it needs some work. I've gotten better at it over the years. Like in the beginning, it was a lot harder, but now like I don't even try to get it like fully right. I'm like, hey, I made a thing. I landed on the dartboard. Can you just point to the direction of the bullseye?
I'm a lot nicer now too than I used to be.
Yeah, but I mean, I've also learned like I don't try to finish it because until you've seen it, then I'm like, don't get too married with the exact design. Like, I got an idea. Here, take a look. Let me see what you say. Let's kick it back and forth for a second. All right, now I'll go finish it.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, that's true.
I'm way more diplomatic than I used to be.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Yes. Phil, you and I are nearly the same age, and I've learned we have other things in common, especially that I, too, have learned about myself through therapy after being diagnosed. I'm not going to say that because I'm not sure if he wants.
Sure, that's good. That's good.
I was a project manager for 16 years. Now I'm at the same company in a more internal-focused role.
To be honest, that is actually what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Like,
and I relate to the idea that my anxieties have produced my success at times, but I have paid an emotional price.
yes.
Yeah. I am not only very happy that you have found self-understanding, but you are also able to share that experience on your show. It helps to know that there are others who have similar experiences. Bob, not only do you keep us on pace, but you are the bridge to the live chat community, which adds a dimension to the show that is vital. Even when I'm not on the Twitch, or when there wasn't one, it was always great to hear the feedback and insightful questions that come from the audience. There's a skill to picking out the wheat from the chatter chaff, and you excel at it.
Well, tonight more than anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to know what not to say.
All of you are the heart of the show. There is no way to distinguish you there. I'm looking forward to a great 2017 with Misdirected Mark Productions and Encoded Designs. Sincerely and Happy New Year, Noah Bond, Archmage 1.
Archmage 1.
I don't know, is he in the
Thank
chat
you
room?
very much. I don't recall seeing him in the chat room.
It's like, that's a great call sign, Archmage 1.
Yeah, right?
Yo-yo.
All right. So it's Phil's carry segment, which I need to get a...
Bumper for.
yeah.
Right? I know, we don't have
so
one.
every time I ask...
I know
need
we
a
just do like
bumper.
zippers and clips and stuff, but
Yeah.
we're just click, click, zip, zip, zip.
That's,
okay.
yeah.
Click, click, zip, zip.
There you go.
That doesn't fit with the show.
Yeah, did you like that? Click, click, zip, zip. Done.
So,
Yeah.
What's up?
Phil's carry segment. So Phil got a bag for Christmas. I got the 3V Gear Posse, which now I have all but the last bag in the 3V Gear line.
very cool.
That bag's ridiculous. The last one's too big. It's like a 3-day. It's like a 3-day day pack or something.
No reason for it.
No, I can't. There's nothing I could haul. Like all my other ones
Board
kind of fit
games.
into what's that?
Board games.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think it's actually big enough to fit. Well, no, it would. It would fit square board games though. Well, now that you say that.
Haha.
Haha.
I gave you a reason.
Yeah, so the Posse's the littlest of the three. The Posse's the EDC bag, so like the everyday carry bag.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was really looking for was I was looking for a bag, not so much in the winter because we don't go out anywhere, but like in the summer, like if like you go to like Canal Side
Mm-hmm.
and like you want like take a battery or like maybe it's gonna possibly rain, you want to take your umbrellas,
Yeah.
but you don't want to carry that shit around. I wanted a bag small enough that I could just like sling over my shoulder and take with me.
So it's a sling pack?
It is a sling pack. So it's a sling pack. I like it quite a bit. It's not very big. Like it fits, I think I can just fit my 10-inch Chromebook inside the main compartment, but not really.
Okay.
Good for my iPad, and a couple of other things. Anyway, so that was fun. I got that bag, but I knew that I was going to be home for a couple days. And so Christmas, I ordered a bunch of stuff to mod out my bags a little. So I like black bags because I really don't like the other military colors, like the desert and the olive drab or anything like that. So I just get like plain black bags. But they're kind of boring, right? Like they're just black.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to do was add a little color to the bags. And I saw on Instagram, somebody had a picture of a Posse bag that they had modded up. They used some paracord, wrapped the handle in paracord, and used the same paracord and replaced all of the zipper pulls.
Oh, nice.
So on a regular backpack, your zipper pull might have that metal tab,
Yeah.
but on tactical bags, they don't because those metal tabs click. So what they do is they just use a loop of paracord that you can grab onto. So I tried this thing first where I got some shrink tubing.
Yeah, I noticed that wasn't on there.
Right. So I tried the shrink tubing, and the problem was I ordered red shrink tubing, but when it came, it was like more orangish than red.
So it didn't match the color.
Didn't match the it didn't match the paracord.
Yeah.
And I really I did it. I did it on the Posse. I shrink wrapped all of the ties.
Did you cut it off? Because I didn't notice.
I cut them all off.
Yeah,
I didn't like
figures.
it. So here's what I wound up doing. I'll put it on camera, but I'll describe it. So I did a couple things. So first of all, this is the Posse. All the zipper pulls are red paracord, right? So now it's a black bag with little shocks of red. It's got the red paracord.
Here, why don't you give that to me and I'll hold it over here for everybody.
So it's a nicer paracord. So it's nicer to grab onto the zipper pulls. And then at the top, I put a weave of paracord into the handle to kind of make the handle a little more, give it a little more texture. And actually what I did was, this is the second attempt on the handle. The first one, I did this pattern I saw that was like somebody had done it. They paracord wrapped an axe.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it and I didn't like it. It was really messy and it was hard to kind of keep straight on the handle. So I was like, where else can I find a good pattern using rope? So I went to my Shibari
You
book.
put the bag down now, Chris,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they can't really see it with the lighting.
Yeah, the lighting's not that good. I actually posted pictures of this out on Twitter, G+, and Facebook. So I went to my Shibari book, my rope bondage book, and found this wonderful pattern. And I was like, oh, I can totally do this pattern on the handle. It ironically is the same pattern that you would use for a rope corset. But it totally works on the handle on a smaller scale.
Nice.
So anyway, it came out nice. I really like the handle, and I like now the bags they're black with these shocks of red.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it to all of my bags. It took me all day. Like I did the Posse, which is the little EDC bag, the Outlaw, which is my gaming bag, the Velox, which is my weekend trip backpack. And I did my Kato bag, my Hazard 4 Kato bag, which is my work bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do the handle on the Kato because Kato has a nice rubber handle instead of a
Cloth or
instead of a
whatever
cloth
that material,
ballistic
whatever
nylon.
it is. Yeah.
So anyway, it was a lot of fun. I burned myself a few times. Paracord, you have to melt the ends. So a couple times I was going a little too fast and then burnt myself on the ends. Cut myself once on my hand while cutting the paracord. But all in all, it was a lot of fun. And if you go and look on G Plus and Facebook and Twitter, I posted like all the bags.
Nice.
I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't think there's too much else I can do with them, but I know like the next bag I get, I have a bunch of paracord left, so I'll totally do it again. So
all right.
Anyway, it was fun.
This has been Phil's Carry segment, brought to you by Misdirected Mark Productions.
Thanks, man.
And the Velox.
The Velox 2 from 3V Gear.
Yeah, there you go. That light thing. We're gonna light and fix this because I would like the lighting to be better in here at some point.
Yeah. I actually need an electrician to come and fix one of the sockets.
All right, with that, Patreon shoutouts.
Do it.
All right. Thank you, Sean Gilgore, so much for being a patron of Misdirected Mark Productions.
Yeah, and being like one of my closest friends since I was in high school. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. Eric Jebison, thank you also so much for being a part of Misdirected Mark Productions, the Patreon, and, giving us money and hanging out with us and talking to us now and again.
Eric did not go to high school with me.
No.
Okay.
Wayne the Palladian Chang, who's got the cutest little kid.
Oh my God, she's adorable.
Yep.
I don't think those went out to public. I think they were in the private Slack.
They're just for us.
Oh my God, so adorable
So
for
cute.
Christmas.
Yep.
Yep.
All the smiles. The kid smiles a lot. It's great. Kevin Lovecraft.
I wish I went to high school with Kevin Lovecraft.
I know, right? Man, how drunk would we have been in high school?
Oh my God, seriously.
That guy knows beer like no one.
Right?
No one I know anyway.
I mean, I love when mysterious beer package arrives.
Oh, right? It's like the best.
Like it's like all of a
I feel
sudden.
like we should send him something at some point.
We're gonna have to go. I'm going to Resurgence later this week. Maybe I'll see if they got anything good there we could show.
But they don't.
But they don't. Damn it.
Not compared to what he sends us.
No, he
man.
sends us like really good craft beer.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Maybe we could just send him some game stuff or something. I don't
That's
know.
probably better,
Yeah,
right?
that's probably better.
Okay.
And Brandon Barnes,
Yep. Brandon's awesome. Right?
Graphic Novelty Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that went. They just had a couple of shows go out. I didn't notice his name on one of the shows recently, so I didn't listen to that one. But hopefully, I get around listening to that. But Graphic Novelty, folks, you should listen to it. You should be listening. It is time for the podcast Super Friends.
Yes.
So CypherSpeak is back, at least for a moment.
It winked into existence.
Yes, they came back to tell us that they're still around and that they're going to take 2 months to build up a backlog.
It's good.
And then they're going to start releasing shows.
Good.
And they're going to actually, come to me when they need help editing and things like that, which is
that's
good.
good.
Yeah,
That's kind of what you're there for.
that's exactly what I'm there for. Also, Madison Ray too, to help them out because she's excellent. I met her at you met her
At
too.
Catacon.
Yeah,
She was very nice.
yes, she is. Panda's Talking Games. You talked about the X card.
We did.
There wasn't any bonus outtakes.
No, we did 2 shows that night,
Uh huh.
and we did a really tight. We did a really it sometimes happens. We had a tight show. I suspect it's because it's hard to get silly and talk about the X card.
Yeah.
So I think like everything was just like a little tighter that night because it was the B episode, but the A episode, if you remember,
Was
from
ridiculous.
Was ridiculous. But it was like, okay, we're gonna do the X card, and then like we got like I think a little more serious.
So the real trick to getting Panda's Talking Games to be on point is to pick serious topics.
and since I'm the one who picks the topics, no, so we don't do that very
Damn
often.
it. No,
The
it's fine.
peoples want their outtakes. Give the peoples what they want.
Give the people's what they want.
Yes.
On Down with D&D, we talked about what's new in D&D and monks in the new Unearthed Arcana. I can also say that I screwed up when I posted because originally I told it what's new in Storm King's Thunder Chapter 4.
There you go.
I went back through and tried to fix that as much as I could. But so if you don't hear Storm King's Thunder Chapter 4 and you see it on there, my bad. Like, that's next week's episode. Also, next week's episode has Cindy Moore on it.
The return of Cindy
The return of Cindy Moore, yes.
Is Cindy Moore coming back permanently, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
She'll
very
be
nice.
on every other episode because she can only make one of the episodes a night because of when we record.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the Gnome Stew did their gamer resolutions, which I clipped out you, me, and Bob from our Misdirected Mark
Oh,
episode.
thanks, because I know you had put out that thing, but like it was getting close, and I was like, oh man, I can't find a.
It's fine. Like I said,
Thanks.
I clipped out you, me, and Bob because we already gave our gamer resolutions.
We did.
Yeah, so.
Um,
So Gaming MBS, they did a year-end and game resolution episode 2, 120. It was really fun to listen to them talk about that.
Yeah, they did actually think about Hydra hackers. It was really nice.
They
of them.
did, yeah. It was also Sean. That was like Sean P. Kellis wants to start a gaming group for kids.
Yeah, I was trying to picture that, but it was
I think he could do it.
well, I think so too. But he could just like the first day could hand out like train conductor hats.
Mm-hmm. I also want to say another thing.
Just be like sit down. Like
Brett runs a convention called EverCon.
He does.
And I know Kevin Lovecraft is going to be there running games on demand.
Mhm.
I'm going to screw this up because I didn't write it down. It's in Wisconsin. It's in northern Wisconsin. It's in Brett's hometown. If
is that Wausau?
Wausau, Wisconsin. If somebody could look that up for me,
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that. I'd like to give EverCon a plug. It is the weekend of. It's not.
on it,
I
hang
think
in.
it's this weekend. Might be next weekend. But if
Check
you're
'em.
up that way, you should go there. I know Height's going to be there. They have a lot of guests.
January 6, 7, 8.
There you
Yep,
go.
that's
It's
this weekend.
They're going to have a. They have
Wausau,
a
Wisconsin.
they have a good solid guest list. If you, it should be a pretty decent sized convention from what I've heard as far as like smaller to mid range conventions go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed episode 120 a lot. I like listening to them guys talk about what they want to do next year game wise.
Yeah. Well, Brett, I think talked a little bit, right? Didn't he? Did he hint? I don't remember. I thought he hinted at something that he and I are working on.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He hinted at that. He also hinted at the thing that I've been doing with him, which is
Mhm.
the Streets of Avalon, which is out right now, and
Yep.
also a product that might come from that or should come from that.
Yeah.
She's a Super Geek. They had a holiday episode that I didn't get a chance to listen to, but I finally listened to the rest of the Witches, or almost the rest of the Witches.
No
Dead.
spoilers. I haven't finished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no spoilers.
John Arcadian, poor John Arcadian.
Poor John Arcadian.
On Talking Tabletop, I've been listening to Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
Jim did something this in episode 8, which is Inspector something or another is the name of the episode, that hooked me in for like the reels. Like you're talking about that episode, you're talking about that we just talked about story arc, like story structure arcs.
Right.
Like we had the introduction, and now there was a situation that arose where a bunch of questions got raised up, and the 3 agents had to talk to basically somebody who came and grilled them all on their previous work and how
Yeah.
bad it was, and a lot of things got brought up, a lot of like story hooks and questions got raised. So I'm like, this is he took it where it needed to go. The pacing was right. It was the
Nice.
right moment to do that because we know the characters now, and then he hooked us with all the questions about them that we didn't know because the game is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's ridiculous I finally got I've been trying to figure out how to explain it to people. It's like Ash versus Evil Dead.
Right.
Like the terrible things are actually terrible even though they're ridiculous. And the world itself is actually real, but the heroes are Ash in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like that. Okay. And that's
Wait, I listened to one.
yeah, what'd you get?
I listened to a podcast that surfaced recently. It's like D&D. It's
Oh
called.
yeah, good. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I started
so
listening to it too.
It's like D&D is a podcast, and it just popped up on iTunes, so you can actually go download. I think the first 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually 3 people, 2 of which we know.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob and Rachel.
Diebold.
Yep, they and then it's
Kate Bullock.
thank you, Kate Bullock, who is both the organizer of Breakout Con and what's her
writes,
blog?
Blue Stockings.
Right. She's fantastic. They have a little roundtable discussion. They are serious indie gamers.
Yeah, they play a lot of indie games.
They play a lot of indie games. So if you like a lot of the stuff that we talk about plus other indie games,
Yeah, if you're a fan of the Gauntlet, you should be listening to them.
right. Like, yeah, if your podcatcher has us and the Gauntlet, go pick up
Yeah,
their episodes.
It's if they're right in the same space as us, the Gauntlet, and the Gencast.
Yeah, like just right in that vein.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good discussion. The 3 of them are entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about a lot of games that they played,
Yep.
and they wind up playing a lot of games. And I'm 2 or 3 episodes in so far. So it's still like it's in that early. Like I went straight to the backlog, so it's in that like kind of finding itself and getting its bearings on like what the structure is and things like that. But it's good. It's like it's definitely going in the right direction, and I'm hoping that I think their goal is to kind of now get into a regular rhythm for putting out episodes.
No, that'd be good.
Because
good
like
show.
the first episode's like 6 months old.
Yeah.
And then like I think they're starting to ramp up.
Yeah, that always. I mean, I went at it hard, but I mean, I had all sorts of audio technical problems for a long time until I
Yeah.
got it all ironed out.
And then I mean you get scheduling and then
Yeah.
like you get your sea legs. Like there's a point where like this becomes like a rhythm.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig that they're all in the same room recording together.
Yep.
That's a powerful thing.
Yep. Yeah, they're all part of the Toronto Gamers. I forget what it is. There's a group, and I mean, it's a serious, like, ton of indie kind of games. Like, I really think like one weekend we should just like road trip it to Toronto
Yeah.
and go hang out there.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, it would totally be cool. But yeah, they were good,
Plus,
and I
then we
started
can hang
listening.
out with Wayne.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, there are a lot of people we go hang out with. We went to Toronto.
Oh
for a
yeah,
little bit.
absolutely.
It's tagged the Toronto Area Gamers.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good, and I like it. I'm just gonna work. I've been like listening to sequentially. I'm just gonna try to burn my way through them real quick and kind of get caught up.
Thing I wanted to bring up because I'm a fan of James Introcaso. He started his own podcast network called
Yes.
Don't Split the Podcast.
Yes, you yelled at me when I said we should rumble with them.
Yeah, and they had a new show announced too. So Don't Split the Podcast. It has Table Talk Babble, which is like the round table with, and they had their first episode with Mike Merles. They have a thing
Good
called
way to lead.
Yeah, right. It's good. It's
Good
good way
come out
to-
of the gate.
It's good to come out of the gate with Mike Merles.
Yeah.
They have Game O'Clock, which is their video game show. They have Spellbook Will Travel, which
Sure.
is doing an actual play right now because they're in a break for their production. Like they're producing more episodes of the audio drama, and which finished on a pretty strong note. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Their last arc, and then they just announced a new podcast where Mike Shea, the Sly Flourish, is going to have a once a month show called Mike Shea's Deep Dive, where him and another DM come on and talk about a D&D topic like we talk about stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I approve of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So good stuff there. I'm trying to think what else. I finished Startup.
Yeah, I'm not listening to
Is
it
that
right
right?
now. I don't care.
It wasn't that this season wasn't the. I mean, this season isn't what. This
Past
season
seasons have
isn't what
been.
made it for me. I liked past seasons a lot better.
Mhm.
I hope that they actually kind of go back and do what they did in the first two seasons because I really liked the first two seasons.
Yeah, the one on Gimlet and the one on the dating startup.
Oh god, the dating. I mean, the dating startup one was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
right?
it
Like that
was.
was like that's a real like that was real drama.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, this guy,
He's probably unlikable, I would imagine.
the American Peril guy,
Yeah.
kind of unlikable. Not so much relating to the quote protagonist in this
Yeah.
episode. Yeah.
So anything in the chat room before we get out of here? Or should we just move on to the after show?
We have a special guest version of Jim McClure.
Yeah?
His
Emily.
chat room account has been hijacked by Emily.
Kick-ass Emily.
Yeah, good job, Emily.
What's up?
So
Hope you're having a good time.
she's
Hope you're having a
enjoying
good
it,
night.
a good time.
Anything else?
I think we can move on.
Cool.
It's
All right. Well, everyone, thanks so
crazy-
much for
crazy-
listening.
Crazy night for the chat room.
If you are free Tuesday evenings at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch where you can chat and throw innuendos with our other listeners in the chat room for life.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no innuendos on this show.
There really is like no
No,
innuendos.
none at all.
Just overt sexual problems. And then come ask us questions,
Oh,
which
man.
we will absolutely answer in the most uncomfortable ways possible.
Or with intelligence.
And uncomfortable.
Sure. Both
Sure.
at the same time.
Uncomfortably
Uncomfortable
intelligent. Yes.
Good job. Darth Maul Vader
Darth Beaver.
Beaver? Darth Beaver. Oh, come on. If you cannot make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to have to subtitle this one, The Sex Innuendo Show. Jesus. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Threats from Gallifrey, Advantage to Insight, Pandas Talking Games, Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, the Gnome Cast, and the Wednesday Night Podcast All-Stars, currently playing The Streets of Avalon. You can and should also check out some of our brother and sister podcasts. She's a Super Geek, Talking Tabletop, along with the Satanic Panic Play, Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Then, after you have reached your climax, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly at chris@misdirectedmark.com.
That's me.
He's the mean one. Phil at misdirectedmark.com. I'm the cuddly one. Bob at misdirectedmark.com, which clearly he's the furry one. Look at that. Look at the unshaven hobo beard.
Furry one?
Look at him, man.
Man,
Look
when
at
you say that with an episode like today, you're implying a lot of things.
Well, whatever. He can defend himself. Check out our Facebook group. Find us on Twitter, The Light 101.
Yep.
DNA Phil.
Uh-huh.
Robert M. Everson, and then there is the Misdirected Mark at Misdirected Mark Twitter account,
Which you will get me or Sunday to respond to you.
correct. And then, of course, travel to the epicenter, the black hole of our social media network, the G Plus community.
You want me to say the Alaskan steamer of our...
Wow. Is that where we're going?
Okay.
You started it,
We're
man.
heading right into the after show.
I mean, we said we weren't even talking about it.
man.
Anyways, if you
Wow.
like what we do here and on the other
you
shows...
an
and
Urban
the-
I
Dictionary
wouldn't
on
exactly
us.
call the G Plus community a black hole. Though.
Yeah, me neither.
The gravity, guys. Like, it all pulls in.
Yeah, but then but even light gets trapped there.
Boy.
Look, man, but black holes destroy things.
Whatever. Okay. I didn't want to use Coruscant. I'm going to use the Coruscant one.
That's
the
true.
Sharn of our social media community.
There, that's better.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's black holes down there too.
They
so.
high-fived again for the people on radio.
Yep. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMP. I don't know why you would after all that, but you can.
You might.
And
Maybe
for
you
all
will.
of all of our current patrons, please,
And
please don't take it away.
And if you think it was bad now, wait till the after show, which you gain access to. You also get the pre-production show notes, musical parodies by Senda and myself at times and other people, and the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, plus whatever else we decide to throw out at you folks. This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.
First time this year.